In the shifting sands of time, empires rise and fall, their stories told by the victors. But what if the greatest story was never truly told? What if a history was deliberately buried, a legacy erased? We are taught of Rome, the eternal city, the cradle of Western civilization. But what of its rival? The empire that dared to challenge its power, a civilization born from the rich soil of Africa. This is the story of Carthage. Long before Rome cast its long shadow, Carthage was a jewel of the Mediterranean, a beacon of trade, culture, and power. Its great harbor teemed with ships from across the known world. Its streets were a vibrant mosaic of merchants, scholars, and artisans. This was not a mere outpost, but the heart of a vast empire, a testament to African ingenuity and ambition. Its people, the Carthaginians, were masters of the sea, their influence stretching from the coasts of Africa to the shores of Spain. But with great power comes great envy. To the north, the burgeoning Roman Republic watched with a mixture of fear and contempt. They saw Carthage not as a rival, but as an existential threat. This rivalry festered, erupting into a brutal conflict known as the First Punic War. It was a war that would scar both nations, but for Carthage, it left a wound that would not heal. From the ashes of this defeat rose a man forged in bitterness and resolve, Hannibal Barca, a brilliant general, a patriot who had watched his homeland humbled. He saw Rome not just as an enemy, but as a plague that must be eradicated. This hatred became his life's mission, a fire he would pass on to his sons. He knew that Carthage's survival depended not on peace treaties, but on ultimate victory. In his shadow, a young boy grew, Hannibal Barca. He didn't play with simple toys. He played with miniature soldiers, his mind already tracing the lines of battlefields. He watched his father Hamilcar, a warrior etched with the scars of conflict, his eyes holding a storm of unresolved fury. He listened to the whispers of veterans, tales of Roman cruelty and Carthaginian pride. The city's simmering resentment became the air he breathed. One fateful day, Hamilcar prepared to depart for new campaigns in Spain, a mission to rebuild Carthaginian strength. He made a sacrifice at a sacred altar, the air thick with incense and unspoken prayers. Young Hannibal, barely 9 years old, approached him. He wanted to go, to join his father on the path of a warrior. Hamilcar looked down at his son, seeing not just a child, but the future of his people, the vessel of his vengeance. He led the boy to the smoldering altar. He placed Hannibal's small hand upon it, the warmth of the stone, a conduit for a promise that would echo through eternity. He commanded his son to repeat the words, a vow that would define his existence. "I swear." The young boy's voice rang out, clear and unwavering, "So soon as age will permit, I will use fire and steel to arrest the destiny of Rome. I swear that I will never be a friend of Rome. I swear eternal hatred." This was more than a child's promise. It was a spiritual pact, a covenant with the gods of his ancestors. It was the moment a boy's destiny was sealed. He was no longer just Hamilcar's son. He was the chosen instrument of Carthage's retribution, a figure prophesied to shake the foundations of the world. In his eyes, a flicker of the fire from the altar now burned with its own unholy light. As Hannibal grew into a young man in Spain, his genius became undeniable. He mastered the art of war, not just from scrolls, but from instinct. He could read the landscape like a map, anticipate an enemy's move before they made it. He learned to command respect, not through fear, but through shared hardship, eating the same rations and sleeping on the same hard ground as his soldiers, a diverse army of African and Berber warriors who saw in him a reflection of their own strength. He moved with a quiet confidence that unnerved his rivals. He could lead a cavalry charge with breathtaking ferocity, and then, hours later, devise a strategy of such intricate brilliance it seemed almost supernatural. His mind was a labyrinth of tactics, his spirit an unbreakable shield. He was becoming the weapon his father had always dreamed of. Meanwhile, in Rome, senators in their white togas spoke of him in hushed, anxious tones. Reports from Spain painted a terrifying picture. This son of Barca was different, more cunning, more audacious, more dangerous than his father had ever been. A quiet fear began to creep into the heart of the Republic. They had defeated the father, but they had created the son. They had sown the wind, and now, the whirlwind was coming. The name Hannibal was no longer just a name. It became a premonition, a dark star rising in the south. The world knew of his military prowess, but it failed to understand the spiritual fire that drove him. His was a sacred quest, a divine mandate to correct a historical injustice, to reclaim the honor of his African homeland. He was not just a general, he was an answer to a prayer, a force of nature that had been gathering strength in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His legacy was not meant for the dusty pages of Roman history books, but for the soul of a continent. It was a story the world would try to erase, to rewrite, to forget. Now, that time had come. Standing before his legions, a grown man, his face a mask of iron will, his eyes holding the ancient promise made at the altar. Before him stood not just an army, but a symbol of Carthaginian defiance. And towering among them, their shadows stretching long in the fading light, were the great war elephants, living siege engines, ready to shatter the illusion of Roman invincibility. A chill wind blew from the north, carrying the scent of destiny. Hannibal looked towards the horizon, towards the sea, towards Rome. The sacred oath echoed in his soul, no longer a boy's whisper, but a man's roar. And so the journey began, a journey the world would try to erase. But in the next chapter, Hannibal will attempt the impossible.